the 13th, Friday, November the 13th, 2020, 11:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada, and this is episode 123 of Mcrae Live. It's great to see everybody here. Roll on into the chat room. I've been a busy dude. We're coming up to it now, folks. We're essentially 9 days away, 10 days away when cameras roll on It's Me, Billy. Things have been crazy indeed. It is Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th to all you Jason Voorhees fans out there. And my condolences to all of you that are waking up depressed today, upset, angry that the lawsuit has still not been resolved between Victor Miller and Sean S. Cunningham. I know. I hear you. I understand your concern. I understand your concern. I guess I get it. It can be frustrating, especially if you are a die-hard Friday the 13th fan who is thinking to yourself, I mean, why do we not have any Friday the 13th movies? It's Friday the 13th today. And I'm... Okay, so there's a couple things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is just give you a quick update on It's Me, Billy, and then we will move into into talking some Friday the 13th, answering your questions about Friday the 13th, and we can talk the movies, we can talk the holiday, although it's not really a holiday, but although I guess to some it is. I guess it can, for all intents and purposes. So it is definitely a holiday to some. Hey, let me just talk about It's Me, Billy for a moment to give you an update. Okay, so things have been very, very busy. We are going to camera on November the 23rd, 2020. That is 10 days from now. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? We are 10 days away from going to camera. We are 9 days away from getting together at the rendezvous point and traveling in a convoy up to the location, which is about a 4.5-hour drive away from Toronto. So we are, things are getting crazy. This next week is serious crunch time. Myself and Bruce and our DP Greg Bennett and our gaffer Nikita, we had a camera test at White's in Toronto this past Tuesday. And what that is it's not mandatory. There are many projects, big and small that sometimes crews and DPs don't have the opportunity to do that. And not everybody was there, of course. It was only myself, Bruce, our DP, and our gaffer. But the benefit of that is you can set yourself up in a position where you can actually play around with some of the looks and the feels of what you are trying to achieve in the film before actually going to camera. So, obviously, our DP is a professional DP. He's a 2-time CSC nominee. He's been working in the industry for 20-something years, maybe even 30 now. I'm not sure. He's a pro. And so for him, it wasn't about how to use the camera or anything like that. He knows how to use all this stuff. But he's read the script. He's gone through the shot list. We've been working with him now since February. And it's an opportunity for him to, get into a controlled environment where we can play around with some lighting setups and things like that and sort of play around with the feel and the look of what we sort of want to do, what we're going for, so that we're not figuring that out when we're actually on location, because that takes way too much time. So it was a success. It was a lot of fun, and that was done, of course, at White's in Toronto, and it was great. I did upload a video to social media. I was keeping you guys posted throughout that day because I was very excited about that day to be able to get to work with a lot of the equipment that we were working with that day. I think that made sense. Really exciting stuff. Like, this is the top level stuff in the motion picture industry. So it is, I was like a kid in a candy store being able to work with the Arri Mini. I mean, this is the stuff they shoot major Hollywood films on. So it was a lot of fun and a learning experience for me as well. Just to be there with Greg and to listen to the things that he had to say and the suggestions and advice he has. And it's just great. It's just, one of the most important relationships that a director, or in this case, directors, because it's myself and Bruce, will ever have on any set is that with their DP. It is a fundamentally vital relationship that you must be on the same page with. And the communication must be such that it is transparent, that you both feel comfortable talking about, certain things. You both feel comfortable in denying certain things, where if there's certain things that we want to see, but Greg's like, I don't know about that, he needs to feel comfortable with telling us that. If there's certain things that Greg is thinking, but we're like, I don't know about that, we need to feel comfortable in telling him that as well. So it's a vital relationship that must be nurtured and massaged. So working with Greg since February, it has just been fantastic, because I feel even more so after the camera test that we are on the same page. And if you're just joining us, yes, we are talking Friday the 13th today. I'm just giving a It's Me Billy update because it's been a crazy sort of week. I did upload, like I said, the video to social media, but I also wanted to play it here for you. You won't hear it. But I can walk you through sort of what you're seeing in case you have not seen it. So this is me, of course, at White's in Toronto, and I'm just basically saying, hi, here I am at White's in Toronto with our DP, Greg Bennett, and Bruce, and then Nikita, who is our gaffer, who will make his way into the room. And this was just a great day to be able to work with this equipment and really sort of figure out the ballpark look of It's Me, Billy, the things that we want to, the vibe that we want to create, a tone and a mood that we want to create, because this is, although it's a quote unquote sequel to a slasher movie, it is more of a psychological theater of the mind film, because we're paying homage to the original Black Christmas, and we want to make sure that we are setting the tone in the same way. So there's a lot of mood and atmosphere in our film, and we were doing our best to do that. That's the Arri Mini there. That's the camera we'll be shooting on. They shot 1917 on that. They shot a bit of the Joker on that. I mean, it's the high, that camera is I stand to be corrected, but I think it's $250,000. I think to replace that camera is something like $250,000, something ridiculous like that, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is Bruce, obviously. He's sitting next to a lamp. The lamp is tungsten balanced, and then, of course, in the background there, we have some light shining down onto the curtains, which is daylight balanced. And Greg and Nikita are talking about how that matches against each other, because although we are going to have shots where it's just all daylight balance, we want to see what it looks like against each other as well. And that's what sort of we're working on here. That's me sort of being test subject A as Greg and Nikita try to figure out the overall aesthetic look of certain things. I'm not in the movie, by the way, so I know some people are like, oh, Dave's playing Billy. No, I'm not. I'm just being a test subject while Greg does his thing there. So it was great. It was a lot of fun, and just really, like I said, a real great experience. And it just makes me more excited to get on board when we shoot this thing. Not get on board, but it makes me more excited. I am on board. Let me rephrase that. It makes me more excited to just get to the location, I should say, is what I meant to say, and shoot this thing and to work with everybody. And there's a lot of crew, obviously, that were unable to attend or that didn't need to be there, that you will obviously see in the behind the scenes stuff as well. We have our first AC, our second AC, our key grip. We have some key grip electric swings. We have a production assistant, and of course there's the cast and everything as well. So it's great, guys. I mean, it's been very stressful. I've said it before. I will say it again. I've never worked so hard on anything in my life to bring this we are making a professional film. And yes, it's a fan film. That's the subcategory, obviously. But we are going through the same processes, hiring the same people, and working with the same equipment we would if we were making a non-fan film that was a professional film. So fan film's just the category. It just happens to be, you know, an unofficial sequel to the original Black Christmas, but that doesn't mean that we're cutting corners on production value and the logistics of everything we need to do to make a film that not only we can be proud of, but of course you guys can be proud of as well. And you've helped, you are making this a reality. You are helping to make this a reality. The budget that we raised through Indiegogo is going to all of this, and it's how we're able to do this. So the big thanks is to you guys. We did our job in building the campaign and, you know, putting it up online and doing the teaser and all that kind of stuff. And then you guys did your job in helping us raise the money. And now you've passed, you've passed the torch back to us. And now we're going to do our best to deliver. 10 days from now is when we start shooting. 10. Can you believe it? I mean, I got to say, it's hard to believe that it's actually 10 days from now. It's insane. It's insane. Tomorrow we have our final crew meeting with everybody, Zoom call. And then on Saturday we have our final tomorrow is Saturday. On Saturday we have our final crew meeting. On Sunday we have our final cast meeting, which is a table read through and just sort of focusing on a couple of things. And then next week is just going to be balls to the wall bonkers. It's going to be crazy. So I will obviously do my best to try and do, Monday night, Two Dudes Monday night is fine. Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, Mcrae Lives, I don't know yet. I should be able to do them, or at least 2 out of the 3, but we'll see, because it's going to be a crazy week, because this is it. Like, this is the last week before we go to camera, so that's insane. Anyway, if you want to watch that video and listen to what Greg and Nikita and myself and Bruce are saying, it's on my channel. Check it out. It's the last video before this one. I mean, I know that kind of thing doesn't necessarily interest everybody. It's a behind the scenes stuff, and not everybody is interested in the behind the scenes of filmmaking. But I am, and I'm one of the first people that when I get a Blu-ray, I go to the special features and watch any behind the scenes that I can, because I find that stuff really interesting. But I acknowledge it's not for everybody. And there was other stuff from the camera test day as well that you didn't see that we will put on the Blu-ray once it comes out. So yeah, let's jump over now and see what you guys are saying. This is Friday the 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. You know, I've been thinking long and hard about this in terms of Friday the 13th. And, you know, look, I mean, the thing that is, this is what I love about what Vincent DeSanti is doing with Friday the 13th, is he's keeping it Friday the 13th, but he's bringing a sense of maturity to it. You know, there's this saying that, you know, how hard is it to make a Friday the 13th movie? Well, you are correct that in principle, it's not very difficult to make a Friday the 13th movie. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, all you have to do is essentially, you know, how hard is it? You get a bunch of kids together in a camp and you put Jason there and you wreak havoc. Well, that's true, but that doesn't have longevity, not today. 40 years ago, the slasher subgenre was new, and this kind of thing was new for all intents and purposes. And, you know, you could get away with doing 5 or 6 movies that were exactly like that, and they all did fairly well at the box office. Some did better than others, you know, but they all did fairly well. I mean, Friday the 13th, 1 through 4 did pretty good. I mean, and 4 did really well. 5 was a dip down, but it's because it didn't have Jason, and then 6 came back. I mean, they all did fairly well. If this was the 1980s, this kind of formula, this kind of ingredient, you could just, you know, rinse, lather, repeat. You know, you could just do that. I mean, it's not a big deal. Today in 2020, the slasher subgenre is sort of it's like a B genre now, sort of, you know, and it's not what it used to be. Horror has matured. Horror has evolved. What we expect from our horror movies has evolved. And if you want just a run-of-the-mill standard Friday the 13th movie, you can get that, and it may do okay, but I don't know if you're going to get any longevity out of that in terms of mainstream popularity. It may end up being like a Hatchet thing or like a Terrifier thing, because there just isn't it's just that stuff doesn't resonate with the general audience like it did 40 years ago. So it's, yes, I agree that in principle, it's very easy to make a Friday the 13th movie, but I think Friday the 13th needs to evolve. I think it needs to move, and I don't mean evolve in terms of getting rid of the DNA of what a Friday the 13th movie is. That's not what I'm talking about. It's still got to be Friday the 13th. But you've got to, it's got to evolve, because I think you're going to lose people. And maybe not the hardcore Fred heads, Jason heads, Sack heads maybe, but I don't know. It's just like when Vince, what he did with Never Hike Alone and what he did with Never Hike in the Snow and what he's going to be doing with the other films as well, is he cares about story and using that story to connect it, to make the connective tissue really present. Now, whether you agree that where he picked up, I think he picked up after 6 or after 8? Can't remember. But anyway, whether you agree with him picking up in the timeline and that's what you find most interesting, or you would rather do a direct sequel to 4, or, or maybe the first one or the second one, or whatever the case is, fine. But what Vince has done is there's a maturity to these movies. Like when I watch Never Hike Alone, I don't feel the cheese. When I watch Never Hike in the Snow, I don't, I don't feel the cheese. And that doesn't mean that if these were not full-length feature films that you couldn't have a little cheese, but I don't feel the overall 80s cheesiness. And and I like that. And I like that Vince is paying attention to story, and characters. And I think as long as it has a brutal Jason and blood and gore is what you would expect from a Friday the 13th movie, I think you can move Friday the 13th into a territory that pushes it forward. It's an evolution of a Friday the 13th film, but it's not getting rid of the DNA. However, if you don't want that and and I acknowledge there are people out there that all they care about is just Jason, kids at a camp, blood and gore. That's all they care about. Okay. But you're not going to get 8 more movies like that in 2020. Unless they're like straight to VOD. You can make them for, $3 million, $5 million, you're not gonna get it, man. The audience isn't there. The mainstream audience isn't there for the Friday the 13th movies like they were 40 years ago. To have that kind of a Friday the 13th movie released globally in a movie theater all the time, 8 times in a row, and it all does very well. I don't believe it. Now, I could be wrong, but I think the probability is low, and that's what we're talking about. It's why movies like Hatchet or Terrifier, when you get into that real slasher, it's why they are where they are. I'm not saying they're bad movies. I'm just saying that kind of movie isn't mainstream anymore. It was 40 years ago, but not so much anymore. And I think you need to evolve that. I think, especially Friday the 13th, because it's got such a redundant formula. Freddy Krueger does a little bit, but Freddy Krueger's formula, although I don't like the later sequels, I do acknowledge that they're different. And it's because you're playing around in the dream world and you can come up with so many sensationalized, surreal scenarios to have your characters and Freddy in. So each movie, although it's Freddy versus, these kids, it feels different. Jason 1 through 4, let's just face it, 1 through 7, really. Although there's differences. I mean, you do have, Jason versus Carrie and The New Blood. But 1 through 6 definitely has a rinse, lather, repeat. So, I mean, I don't know. I like what Vince is doing, because when I watch Never Hike Alone, I feel like I'm watching a legit mature horror film. but it's Friday the 13th, and it doesn't feel out of place. And you want to know why it doesn't feel out of place? Because it's still Friday the 13th. He peppers it in there with a little bit of fan service, but it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in. Like you see, you know, Camp Crystal Lake, you see the old sign, the cabins and shit like that. But the main character isn't goofy, you know, and he's not eccentric, and he's not, you know, silly, or he's not hanging out with him and a buddy, and it feels legit. You know, there's a mystique around it. That's what's cool. There's a mystique around it. And Never Hike in the Snow, I felt the same way. There's a mystique around it. It feels like Friday the 13th, but there's a maturity to it. And that, I think, if you want Friday to go mainstream, I think that's the direction you need to go. Now, when we talk about the 2009 Friday the 13th, certainly it had a very brutal Jason. I like Jason in it. I like what Derek Mears did. But it just felt too polished to me, too studio. It felt too, I don't know. I think there were some nice moments, but it felt a little polished for me. So, but I think that's the right track a little bit. I wasn't a fan of the story. I mean, obviously it was a reboot altogether, like a remake, essentially. Like, I think there's elements of the 2009 film that I think is the right direction. But I think it still needs a bit of, it still had the archetypical characters, right? You had your jock, your bimbo, your this, and some people say, but that's a Friday. Okay. But if you want that, then you risk having another 2009 film where it's one and done, and it's done. And do we need that? Like, the 2009 film, although it's 11 years old, the 2009 film, in terms of its production value and its quality, doesn't look like an old movie, right? So are we just going to reboot Friday the 13th again? And you're going to have another alternate, basically you're going to get the 2009 movie again in terms of its production quality, you know, Jason and gore and stuff, but you're just going to have a different story. I don't see why we would do that. Maybe they need to take a page out of Halloween's book, take a hard look at the Friday the 13th franchise and series and go, can we do something similar here? Worked for Halloween, you know? There's a lot of movies in the Friday the 13th franchise that I'm pretty sure nobody would fucking miss, you know, most of them. You know, do we pick up right from 4? Do we pick up right from 6? That might be interesting, you know? Do something like that. Do what Vince has done. And then just get Vince and his Womp Stomp Films to do it. Just fucking do it. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that, you know, Vince would make a movie that everybody would love. I have no idea. But I like his reasoning. The one thing I love about talking to Vince, besides the fact that he's an intelligent person when it comes to film, is that he's thought about all this. He has an answer for every question you ask him. And it's not just, no, he's like neck deep in this. He's thought about this from A to Z. He's thought about this. That doesn't mean that I would agree with every creative choice he would do, or you would either, but at least he can justify it. And he's a big Friday the 13th fan, and he cares about the franchise and the direction and the feel of what he thinks needs to be done. Now, does that mean Vince is the only one that feels that way, or the only one that can do it? Well, of course not. Of course not. No, of course not. But he's a good example right now of that feel and that tone that I think Friday the 13th needs to go in. I just think if you do another just very stereotypical, one-dimensional Friday the 13th, yeah, people would love it, and it may do very well at the box office. I mean, if you did a classic Friday the 13th movie, kids at a camp, I mean, it's like the 2009 movie, but maybe a little more cheese in there. Maybe it feels a little more 80s, right? Let's say you do that. Will it do well? Yeah, probably would, because old fogies like me would go and see it. But does it have long-term appeal in terms of a franchise? Because nobody makes these movies to be one and done. Nobody does. And the reason why they turned out these kinds of movies over and over again in the late 70s all through most of the 80s is because they were money makers. Most, I mean, some made more than others and some didn't make as much as they were hoping, but they were proven moneymakers, and they didn't really spend a lot of time on story or mythology, or because they didn't need to. You know, people just wanted to see people getting their heads ripped off, and that worked, like I said, in the 80s. But now there's a section of the horror community that would love to see that, and maybe we would all love to see that once. But does it have longevity, long-term appeal, you know, where you could get like 5 movies that are just like that? I don't think so. I think audiences are too mature. I think we demand more. And I think that if that's all you did, I don't think there's appeal there. So you've got to evolve the Friday the 13th franchise without getting rid of the DNA. And that can be a tricky thing to do. And I like what Vince is doing. I mean, myself and Tony have had that idea about going all the way back. And I understand why they wouldn't do this, because obviously Jason and the hockey mask is the brand. But who knows? I mean, who knows, right? I mean, who knows? But I would love to go back and see Pamela Voorhees' story. The story of Pamela Voorhees. And I don't mean from birth. I just mean that, you know, we see that story that happened where she's a cook at the camp and shit like that. And it's a real mature fucking movie, or maybe it's a series or something. I don't know, you know, and it fucking shit gets real, and so real that we have a different outlook on Pamela now. I mean, yeah, we think she's cool. Hey, it's Betsy Palmer, you know, that's cool. And the first Friday the 13th, oh, you know, we didn't know who, you know, the killer was. No, ended up being a woman. Oh, that's different. Yeah. But how cool it would be if we had the opportunity to fear her, like fear, not overpower Jason, obviously, but to fear her. You know, that would all come down to who you cast and the writing. But I mean, you know, I think there's an opportunity there, you know, to really almost make her like, in some weird way, the anti-hero. But not totally. Because I mean, okay, so the kids were having sex when Jason was out swimming because he wasn't a very good swimmer. I like how she says that in the Friday. He wasn't a very good swimmer. I mean, that doesn't call for the kids to be murdered, you know, the counselor to be murdered, you know, and forever. I mean, obviously the mother was sick, obviously. And that's something too that you could explore, right? Because you could be like, you know, it's not normal. And this is when you bring that maturity into it. It's not normal for a woman or anybody. Yes. Okay. The kids were not paying attention. Okay. They fucked up. It's negligence, right? It's not premeditated, right? I mean, as far as we know, it's just, like it, you know, but for the mother to want to kill everybody and then in death in her spirit, you know, get Jason to continue to kill and kill and kill. She must have been sick before that. She must have been either a sociopath or had grandiose psychotic tendencies. There must have been something there. Like there's no way that she just, you know, and if she did, well, then it must have been subconscious. That's interesting to me. That's fascinating to me. And we could move in that direction where we start exploring. I don't mean through like 8 movies. I just mean that maybe you do a series, you know, where the first season is that. And then the second season, Jason's coming in, you know, or maybe you do one movie where it's that. And I understand, no, it's never going to work because Jason's the brand, you know, it's not the mother. And I do understand that. And I recognize that. I do. But man, if we're talking about story and getting people on board to care and to be emotionally invested, that's what you do. You lay the foundation. You get people emotionally invested into the mythology and into the lore. And then when the time comes to introduce Jason, we're already on board. We're like, fuck, you know, like, damn. And you see, and Pamela, it's not the same as Michael Myers, because some people have said, you know, well, why, you know, you think you can do this with, you know, with Freddy and Jason. Why can't you do it with Michael? In my opinion, because the sole identity of Michael is based on the foundation of mystery. He is an enigma. He's the boogeyman. He's evil, right? You start opening that up with series and knowing about his past and mythology and lore, it ruins the mystery of Michael Myers, right? It ruins the mystique of Michael Myers. He lives in a perpetual state of mystery. And that's one of the things of why we're attracted to him, is because of this mystery, this unknown factor. That needs to be preserved. It has to be preserved. For me anyway. You know, and I think that's one of the most important ingredients about that character, is that the characters that are fighting Michael have to always be in a perpetual state of thinking they're on the cusp of figuring it all out, but they never do. He's the boogeyman. He's an enigma. He's mysterious. That's why it works with him. With Freddy and Jason, it's different. We know why Freddy's Freddy. We know his backstory. We know Jason's backstory. We knew Jason's backstory in the first fucking movie. We knew why Pamela Voorhees was doing what she was doing in the first movie. So there is no mystery. The only mystery is, how did this woman snap so violent? Like, what the fuck? Like, clearly she's fucked. Clearly, she wasn't just some normal person, because that's not a normal reaction. You can press charges. Oh yeah, you can sue the fucking kids through their fucking testicles, man. Well, I guess it was a man and a woman, right? You could sue them through their genitals, let's say. You could totally do it. That's a weird thing to say, but you could totally do it. You could sue those camp counselors like it's nobody's business, right? You could totally do that. But to murder them? And to murder everybody else that wasn't responsible, and then to continue to murder people who dared to come back? That's a sick fucking woman. That is a sick fucking woman. And I think there's something there. There's a story to be told there. And that doesn't need to remain a mystery for the rest of the movies and story to work. Do you know what I mean? We can know about Pamela Voorhees' backstory, and it's only going to give us a better appreciation and respect for the character and what's going on. I don't mean respect like we agree with what she's done, but I think you know what I'm talking about, right? It gives us a different, more well-rounded look. You do that with Michael, it takes away from Michael. It doesn't add to Michael Myers. You can do it with Freddy to a point. Jason's the one where you can do it the most with. Freddy still has to have a little bit of mystery there because of the world that he plays in, because the dream world in and of itself is a mysterious world, right? It's the unknown. We don't even really know. We can't even quantify dreams, really, at the end of the day. You know, neurologists and scientists, they think we know what it is and where it comes from and why we're having this thing, you know, but at the end of the day, it's a very untapped world, right? So there's a bit of mystery that has to remain with Freddy because of the world he's playing in. Michael, it's because of the foundation and the root of evil, and how evil, you can't quantify evil. We don't know what evil is. He's the boogeyman. You know, why did he snap the 6-year-old boy? That has to remain there because that's why he's so cool and, you know, fascinating. Jason's a different story. Jason's a different story. Jason's the one where you could, I mean, obviously you don't want to strip everything away, but he's the one that I think you could play with the most in the Friday the 13th sandbox, and his backstory. I think you can play with that and open it up a bit, and you're not actually ruining anything. You're not. I think you're actually only adding to it. Now, can you go too far to the point where you are beginning to ruin something? Yes, of course. You can always go too far. But I think Jason and Friday the 13th has the most slack. I think there's the most room, I should say, I think, to do that with. So I'd be open to that, you know, learning more about Pamela Voorhees, going back, like Tony, Michael and I talked about that on one of our first episodes of Two Dudes way back in 2018. We talked about our ideas. I've talked about on this channel. If you've been following me for any length of time, a couple of years ago, I have a couple of videos on my channel, I think, where I talk about that, like an idea of a Friday the 13th movie going back to that era, you know, and I'd be open to that. I think that would be cool. Outside of that, you know, I mean, picking up from 6, I think is cool. Picking up from 4, I think would be cool. I don't think you'd pick up from 3 because that would be kind of weird. But I think 4, you know, to kind of erase 5 and do a 4 or whatever. I don't think they're going to do that. I really don't. But yeah, I think it's cool. Like, I think there's a lot of potential here, but you've got to move Friday the 13th in a direction where it's not so cornball cheese. you know, and it's it doesn't mean you don't have a little bit of that DNA there, but if you want it to be mainstream, if you want longevity with the series, if you want the series to be like, you know, again, then you've got to move it in a different direction in terms of maturity. You have to, because we're not the same anymore. It's not the same audiences anymore. It's just not, you know, and horror overall has matured. That doesn't mean that most horror movies are garbage, but overall horror has matured. And so I think Friday the 13th needs to mature as well, you know, but still preserving the integrity of the DNA of Friday the 13th. Anyways, hey, if you're watching after the fact, comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts on the direction you want Friday the 13th to go in, the direction you think Friday the 13th should go. Comment below and let me know, what is the chat room saying about Friday the 13th? By the way, happy Friday the 13th to you all. Let's see if some super chats came in. I think one did, or two did, or two. Oh, three did. Cobra Dojo sends in a £5 super chat. Thank you so much. Cobra says, happy Voorhees Day, Dave. Happy Voorhees Day to you too, my man. My marathon this year is 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. I like part 3, but prefer 5. It doesn't bother me. 5 is Roy. Does it bother you? Not really anymore. I mean, when I was a kid in the 80s and I watched it, I remember thinking, well, this is kind of lame. Like, why is this? That doesn't make any sense. Why, you know? So I can understand why 5 was a colossal failure at the box office in comparison to, or was it? I think it was. In comparison to 4, anyway, I think. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, you know, but no, not so much anymore, because it's sort of become kind of, it's become just kind of part of the quirkiness of the franchise. Like by 5, the Friday the 13th, and look, the Friday the 13th franchise has always been, like I said, a little bit of cornball in there. But 5 is definitely, the older I get, the more I reserved it. It's just part of the franchise. It's just part of the story. One day there was just this guy that decided to, you know, take, just be Jason, you know, and when you justify it that way in your own mind, it kind of makes sense and you can kind of go with it. I don't mind 5. Isn't that the one where the guy's, he's got like the bowel problem and he's eating the enchiladas or something and he's in I think that's that guy. Edward Sterling sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Edward. Says, this will be an unpopular, some movies do a screen for screen remake. Wouldn't mind a part 1 redone or even the found footage that they were thinking of. I think first of all, found footage it's so unfortunate that it got exploited in the ways that it did. Because found footage, I should do a show on this. Found footage actually has a lot of untapped potential. And now people roll their eyes when they see found footage or they hear it's going to be found footage. And I understand why they do that. I totally understand it. But it's disappointing to me because I do believe that there is a lot of untapped potential in that space, in that subgenre, I guess. Let's just put it this way. I believe that if I had the money to do another film that was found footage, in a totally I mean, I can go out now but I mean, like, you know, and it's, you know, on the level of like, it's me, Billy, I could scare the shit out of you guys. Full stop. I am confident I could do that. And I know that sounds like, whoa, you're that, yep. Because every time I watch a found footage movie, I always see, I know what they're doing wrong. Most found footage movies, are too overly produced, ironically. And anyways, I don't want to get into all my thoughts, but because that'll be a whole other fucking show. But let's just say that I understand the adverse reaction to found footage. I totally get it because it's been exploited, it's been exhausted, and it's been exhausted and exploited in largely all the wrong ways. But there is a level of untapped potential for found footage that I actually wish would be done. Now, the more you exploit this untapped stuff too, eventually the novelty will wear off as well. But man, I'm telling you, it disappoints me. But so I wouldn't want a shot-for-shot remake of the first movie, though. No. No, we know how that went with Psycho. Rican Man, 85, sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thanks, buddy. Says, I think to do Pamela and get people to tune in, got to make it a series or a streaming platform, on a streaming platform. Yep, and you may be right. You may be right. And at the end of the day, winning solves everything, right? Of course, you got to get eyeballs on it, but winning solves everything. And people could have the most adverse and pout and huff and puff all they want. But if the show is fucking great, well, then it doesn't matter. And everybody's like, well, it's actually kind of good. And then they tune in, they don't give a fuck, and they forget the fact that they've hated it. But you're right. It would be easier to market that and sell that on a streaming platform than I think it would theatrically. I think people would but I don't know. Who knows? I mean, but I think there's a lot of untapped potential there, and I think the reason why I'm leaning towards that is not just because that, but it's because it allows you to do something that isn't just what you're going to do in the 2009 movie. I mean, so they're going to remake Friday the 13th again, but we just had a remake. So it, like, in terms of its production value and its quality, it's going to look like the 09 movie, just a different story. I just think we need to do something different. We need to, I don't know, just bring, I know, yeah. Everything I've been saying on this show so far. But I tend to lean with what you're saying too. Mendel Goodman sends in a $5 super chat, says, if Michael Myers had a love song for Laurie Strode, it would be Boogeyman by AC/DC. Yeah, that's a good. Oh, by the way, AC/DC's new album is out today, Power Up. I know some of you in the chat may not be AC/DC fans because it's not your generation. You also may not be AC/DC fans because you're one of those people that glom onto the saying of, every fucking song sounds the same. AC/DC has been around for nearly 50 years. They're not going to change. So first of all, we got to get that out of the way. Every song they do sounds similar. That's true. But if you're an AC/DC fan, you can tell the difference. And what AC/DC is they are a hard rock. At the end of the day, they're a hard rock anthem band. So, and I said this on an AC/DC video I uploaded about a month or so ago, I guess. I said, I've never listened to any other band in my life. And there's a lot of bands out there, as we know, and a lot of bands that have a lot of good songs, right? We know this. But I've never listened, this is just me now, I've never listened to any other band that has more feet stomping, moving your body like this, fucking catchy beats and riffs like AC/DC. And I'm telling you, and this new album, Power Up, Demon Fire, oh, fuck. What do the kids say today? It's lit. Is that what your kids say? It's lit? Yeah, it's fucking lit. Let's just say that. Demon Fire is great. Fuck, I had it up here. Damn it, I don't have the tracks. Anyways, I've listened to about 4 out of the 12 tracks so far, and I've loved all 4. And again, do they sound similar to other songs they've had in the past? Yes. Even Angus Young says that. There's a quote from Angus Young where he's like, he said something like, you AC/DC fans don't know what I'm talking about. Somebody had said to him, what do you say to the people out there who say that you've made, I think at the time, this goes back a few years now, that you've made 12 albums that sound all the same. And Angus Young was like, that's nonsense. I'm offended by that. We haven't made 12 albums that sound the same. We've made 13 albums that sound the same. It was something to that effect, and I was like, that's awesome. They know who they are. AC/DC knows who they are. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They just dish out good hard rock songs that you can fucking, roll down your window to in the summer and fucking drive down the highway. And that's what they do. And they do it very well, probably better than any other band in history. Now, I'm not saying they're the best band in history. Don't try to nuance here, right? Probably out of any other band, they are able to do that better than any other band. And then you could say, well, that's because it's stupid. Well, okay, fine. If you're somebody that needs every song to sound completely different, that's fair. That's fair. And there are some songs by AC/DC that are very different. Like The Jack is very different. Money Talks is very different. There's a lot of songs, right? But yeah, whether it's Whole Lotta Rosie or whether it's TNT or Dirty Deeds or Back in Black or Highway to Hell, you know, or Let Me Put My Love Into You or Thunderstruck or Who Made Who. That's what, you know, that's the way I want my rock and roll. Stiff Upper Lip, It's a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll, Jailbreak. All those songs I just listed there all fucking sound great. You could listen to each one of those songs and they all have a great riff and a great beat. And that's what AC/DC does. And they've done it for 50 years. And they just released another album today. The lead singer is 74 and he's fucking rocking it. That's all I want. That's all I want. I want to pick up the album and go, that's AC/DC and this fucking sounds great. And that's it. It's great shit. Love me some AC/DC, man. Love it. What do we got here? Oh, here we go. Yes. Manolis, is that right? $7.99 Australian dollar. Hey, Dave, have you listened to Power Up yet? I have. Different, but I like it. Realize is my standout. Love the channel, mate. Hello from Australia. Well, hello to you from Toronto, Canada, buddy. And thank you for supporting the channel. I really appreciate that. Realize is your standout. Really, eh? That's very Canadian. Really, eh? I would say the standout for me is Demon Fire. Demon Fire is great. Also, what's the knockdown one? What is it called? I get knocked down or something, whatever. That sounds really, Code Red is good too. I listened to Code Red. And yeah, every one of those songs sounds like AC/DC. And that's all rocks. It all rocks, man. That's what AC/DC is. So you people out there like, you're just fucking pissed off because your band ain't fucking doing it at 70.
Yeah, well. I'm offended.
I love you guys. Let me see here. Frank Riker. Frank, my man Frank, sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Frank. Says, for the sexy MFers in the chat, and a happy 85th birthday to the king of sexiness, Tom Atkins, and his dash of pleasure. Oh, is it Tom Atkins' birthday today? I didn't realize it was Tom Atkins' birthday today. Tom Atkins was born on November the 13th. He's 85. So that means he was born in 1935. Yeah, 35. Wow, and he's still killing it. Still killing it. Happy birthday to Tom Atkins. Amazing, amazing. And his Tash of Pleasure. That should be a movie right there. That should be a movie. Tom Atkins and his Tash of Pleasure. That should be a movie. Gary Rangel sends in a $2 super chat and says, Dave, do you consider Never Hike films canon? I've never really thought about it. It's hard for me to consider them canon because yes, I could, but I've never really thought about it because of it has more to do with my mindset. I think because I'm a filmmaker and because I know I know sort of what goes on behind the curtain. It's sort of, it's kind of hard for me to think of it as canon because I'm never watching these things from purely a fan perspective. I'm always watching these things from the filmmaking perspective and also from the perspective of I knew a lot about what was going on before it was going on because obviously I talked to Vince and he's also producing Dylan's new Nightmare as well, for which I'm playing Freddy in. So, so I get a lot of information that comes either directly from Vince or through, Cecil or other channels and things like that. Channels, I mean other people. So yeah, I've never really thought of it as canon. I think the quality is good enough that you can, obviously, in terms of its production value, 100%. But I've never really thought about it. It's like for me, I haven't really thought about It's Me, Billy as officially canon. Now, we haven't released it yet. We haven't shot it yet. 10 days, folks, 10 days. 10 days to shooting, not 10 days to release. I've just been, because I've been so into sort of the other side of the curtain. Now, whether I will, I guess my answer to that would be, I think you leave it up to the fans. You leave it up to the fans because it will be them ultimately that determine whether or not even in some, I mean, obviously they're not officially canon, Never Hike Alone and The Snow are not officially canon, and It's Me, Billy will never be officially canon. But Vince worked very hard to deliver something of high production value and quality, as we are as well with It's Me, Billy, where that might be something people consider. You know what I mean? So I'll leave that up to the fans, but I haven't thought about it really. But I could see why you would. Sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Quality's there. It's legit. They're real movies. That's the thing that I think people need to understand too. And there are different tiers. There are different levels to this. Obviously, not everybody has the same connections and resources that we do. I mean, Vince works in the film industry in Hollywood. Obviously I and our team work in the film and entertainment industry here in Toronto, which is the third largest in North America in terms of the film and TV production. So yes, we obviously have a leg in over maybe others. So there's different tiers, but it's great to see all different kinds of fan films being created by hardworking, passionate people. And that's great. And it's great to see that. I think it's just so awesome to see. And fan film is, we're changing the term fan film. It still has that feeling, of, fan film means amateur, low budget piece of shit movie. That's essentially what people think of when they hear the word fan film. Low budget piece of shit fan movie, kiddie movie. That's what they think. And for years it made sense because that's what they were. So to change that in somebody's mind, to change, or at least to have them perk up a little bit and go, oh, hang on. No, not necessarily. It's becoming now just a subgenre. It's going to take a bit of time, but hopefully, we'll have a part in changing that. So it'll be fun for sure. And you never know where these things lead, folks. You never know who's watching. David Lee Barron sends in a $1.99 super chat and says, Coach Carter says he doesn't give a shit. Coach Carter. Now, that's, I remember the movie with Samuel L. Jackson. I think it was 2005. Was it 2005? Hey, Google, what year did the movie Coach Carter come out?
The release date of Coach Carter was January 13th, 2005.
Yes! I got it, bitches. I got it. I did see the movie a long time ago. I like the movie. And of course, it was based on a real guy. So I find that kind of funny. That's really funny. Thank you, Frank. And the individual is taken care of. And thank you to Frank for being on that. Appreciate it. Okay, let me see here. What do we got? I'm offended. Terrified Fish. I love that. Hey, Dave, there's a 2-part comic series about Pamela's origin. It's pretty cool. Read if you can find it. I didn't know that. But somehow I'm not surprised. There's probably a 2-part comic book of most things pop culture now. There's probably a 2-part comic book series on how Michael learned to take a shit. I mean, it's amazing how... And it's a 2-part comic book series, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 2-part series. It's amazing how, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, you know what? Maybe that's a good template. I don't know if I would agree with, I'd be curious to, I'll see if I can look for it. I'd be curious to read it and see what their version of the backstory is and whether it dove into the psychology of Pamela Voorhees. That might be a little too cerebral for a comic book, but it depends on who the target audience was. I'll take a look. But maybe it would make a good template. Maybe it would. I don't know. Oh, Frank Riker says 3-part. Oh, you're right. Frank, you're right. 3-part. That's right. Yeah. There's a 3-part comic book series on how Michael learned to take a shit. And it takes place in Smith's Grove. And it's all about potty training and shit, and stuff. And they had a bunch of nurses come in, and it's a whole thing. And each part, it's 3 parts, and each part is 742 pages. So like you're looking at like 22 100 pages of Michael learning to take a shit, and it's fascinating. Yeah, I've read the first 1,700 pages, and it's just starting to get really good now. So it's great stuff. I love it. Nathan A says, "Hey Dave, retconning part 6 will cause fan outrage." I agree, but they did retcon Halloween 2, and here we are. That movie is the most popular movie of the franchise besides Final Chapter. People proposed the idea of continuing the Jarvis storyline from 6. Yeah, well, that's what Vincent DeSanti has done. He's continued it, obviously. I don't know if he's continued it from 6 or from 8, because the one thing, I mean, although the Friday the 13th franchise, and Tony Michael, says this all the time as well, despite the fact that the Friday the 13th franchise, most of it, really, and this is my opinion, 1 through 4, 5, 6, okay. But anything after 6 is just dog shit. 7's dog shit, 8's dog shit, 9's dog shit, 10's dog shit. It's garbage, in my opinion. But it's all within the same continuity. Now it bounces around, but it's all, the continuity's the same. So Manhattan and the New Blood are in the same continuity as Friday the 13th 6. You can't say that about Halloween H2O and Halloween 4 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's a little. So all I'm saying is that yes, I agree with you. Friday the 13th 6 is the equivalent of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and Halloween 2 or H2O. Halloween H2O tends to be a fan favorite because I've noticed, and this isn't for everybody, okay, but I've noticed in my travels, being a 41-year-old man, I'm not saying that I'm old. Certainly there are people that watch me that are older, but I'm still 41. I'm old enough to remember, certain things. And in my travels over the last 25 years, I have come to realize that Halloween H2O tends to be a fan favorite because for a lot of people, it was either the first Halloween movie they ever saw in the movie theater, or it was the first Halloween movie they ever saw, which then allowed them to go back and watch the originals. So there's a nostalgia to H2O for a lot of people. A lot of people. There isn't for me. I mean, the only nostalgia that would come from H2O for me would be like, oh, I remember I was working at a movie theater when this came out and I was able to see this for free. And it brings me back to remembering my time working at the movie theater in the summer of 1998. You know what I mean? Like and then I think about other things. It's not I don't really have a emotional nostalgic attachment to the movie itself. But that's a fan favorite. But they retconned Halloween 2. They did. And I think if you were going to do a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel, because you need to make Freddy scary again. We need to make Freddy scary again. That's what we need to do. Make Freddy scary again. MFSA. Mufsa. Mufsa. You want a Mufsa hat? You have to. And doing a direct sequel to 6, I mean, God, he's terrible in that movie. Doing a direct sequel to 3 you could do. It is a hybrid. I mean, he is scary in that movie, but he is, having watched it recently, I like part 3. I do. It's a fan favorite. I like it. Certainly, I do like it. And I actually think it's a great end to the series overall. But you do see the carnival barker and Freddy start to come out. And I think, in my opinion, if you were to do a sequel to any of the Elm Streets, Freddy needs to be scarier than he was in part 3. Now, could you still include part 3 and go back to Freddy from the Freddy from 2 or 1? Yeah, I think you could. But you couldn't do a sequel to 6 or 5 and have him like part 1. It'd just be weird. Unless you justify it somewhere in the narrative. But I agree with you. I mean, retconning part 6 would upset a lot of people, but people get over it. Winning solves everything. All it would take would be this. The announcement comes out from Deadline. They're doing a Friday the 13th sequel. Yay! It's a direct sequel to 4, retconning 5, 6, and whatever. Boo! Fuck, that's bullshit, man. That's fucking bullshit. Nah, that's bullshit, man. That's fucking bullshit. Fucking shit. I'm not going to fuck that shit. And there'd be months and months of that, right? It's bullshit. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. And then all it takes is for the movie to come out and it to be great. Fucking great. And everybody be like, oh, it was actually fucking good. Okay. It's actually fucking good. And then nobody gives a shit. It's true. That's the way fandom is. It's the way fandom is. And then you give them something like cake.
Oh, that's okay. You go ahead. This is nice.
Okay, you go ahead. Aren't you mad? And then the cake's gone. It's the way fandom is a lot of the time. Now, that doesn't mean everybody would be like that. I'm being satirical to make a point, obviously. I don't think I would necessarily retcon 6 because I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessarily necessary to retcon part 6. But the goal would be to get Jason back on track and the Friday the 13th franchise back on track. So then you have to explore the franchise and you have to figure out what is the best option to do that. What gives us the best probability of financial success? Because that's the bottom line. And also fandom success. What do we want to do here? What's the best story to tell? And if that means the best course of action is to retcon most of those movies, maybe you have to explore that option. If the best course of action is to, no, you know what? Let's leave the movies as is and let's go to streaming. Let's write a Friday the 13th show. I don't know who would pick it up. I mean, it would have to be quite gory and violent. Well, I guess, yeah, no, that's not, what the fuck am I saying? They have gory, violent shit on Netflix all the time. So yeah, you just do it that way. I do agree with you in principle, though, with what you're saying. I do. Cole Penner says, I would love to see your found footage, Dave. I don't get scared by movies anymore, but I'd love to be. Yeah, I'd love to do it. I have a few ideas that I would love to do. And I know I could scare people. Winter Rose 444 says, I love it because of Laurie's journey throughout the film. Plus, I love the ending. Yes. Oh, you mean Halloween H2O? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Halloween H2O. I know a lot of people are. And the two things you said there, Laurie's journey throughout the movie and the ending, I have no issues with. Well, I have issues with part of the ending. But in Laurie's journey, I don't have any issues with. I just doesn't look like a Halloween movie. It looks like Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. It just looks, it's too, and I don't like the fact you can see his eyes, and I'm not a big fan of Chris Duran's performance. No offense to Chris. I'm sure he's a very, very nice guy. We're talking about the character here of Michael Myers and the way he was directed to portray him, and I just didn't like it. And I didn't like all the different masks and I just didn't like the movie. It just felt like, it felt very much, very teeny soap opera-y to me. And it just didn't feel like a Halloween movie. That doesn't mean that there isn't elements of that in John Carpenter's Halloween. Of course there is. I think maybe it was, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again. Admittedly, I haven't watched it in a few years. I just know that Halloween H2O, I recognize that a lot of people like that movie for a lot of the reasons that you said, and other reasons as well. I'm just not a big fan of it. But again, like most movies I dislike or am not a big fan of, I can always find redeeming qualities somewhere. That's a nice shot. That's a nice moment. I like that scene. I like the way he looks there. Things like that. When you look at it in a vacuum, I can usually find things that I like. It's very rare that I watch a movie and that from top to bottom, everything is just garbage. Like even Halloween 5, there's moments or shots or scenes that I like, although Resurrection is one that, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is one, but no, that's not true. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, the opening of the hospital dream sequence, it's fantastic. It's great. It's great, right? So even that, you know what I mean? Like there's usually things I can point to and find. But as a whole, I just wasn't a big fan of H2O. And I didn't like that. I just have trouble see, I think although I don't like that we saw Michael's eyes, because it makes no logical sense, because his eyes were shot out. And in this movie, Halloween 2 is still canon. So, and he's not burned. So it just is weird. Even in Halloween 4, he's burned. And you could say, well, yeah, but we never got to see his eyes all fucked up in Halloween 4. Yeah, that's because we never got to see his eyes, period. So it works. So we don't know what he looks like under there. His eyes could be all fucked up. You know, he could have like 10% vision, you know, and he's walking along. And if we actually saw through the mask, we could see it's like hazy and shit. We have no idea what he fucking looks like. So I'm okay with that. And Michael's hands are burned. Okay, now, should they be a little more burned? Yeah, probably, but okay, all right. In Halloween 5, he's in the attic taking off his mask and shedding a fucking tear. It's lame, it's cringy, it's god-awful cringy, and you as Halloween fans deserve better than that atrocity of garbage. Much better than that. Anyway. I didn't like in Halloween H2O where we see his eyes and he's got the, you know, the van is pinning him against the tree trunk and he's going like this, reaching for Lori. I'm like, I don't like, it's lame, it's touching, who cares? You know? And then the justification in Resurrection, I do not believe, and I need to believe as an audience member. I have to believe. But I do not believe that paramedic would not have removed his mask. He had many, many moments where he could have done it. And I do not believe it. Sitting up in the back of the fucking, as soon as he came to, sitting, and I know well, he was out of sorts. He didn't know where he was. He was confused. He was this, he was that. I don't believe, whatever you need to tell yourself, you tell yourself. It doesn't work for me. I think it's dog shit. I think it's lame, and it just sounds like a really weak-ass excuse to justify incompetence. That's what it is for me. I just don't buy it. Sorry. And so I don't believe that he would be sitting there with the fucking thing up against his back, reaching for Lori and not going, hey! Now, I know his larynx is crushed. I know that. But making some sort of sound, right? Like, or I don't know, better yet, reaching up and taking off his mask, reaching up and taking his mask off on the road, taking his mask off in the back of the van. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Making a sound, trying to speak, going like this, you know, trying to, you know. Remember when he does this? You know, and that was, yeah, was that? I'm getting the two movies mixed up now. Anyway, but when the thing hits him in the back and he's I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Now, I bought it when I watched the movie because I'm thinking that's Michael Myers. But then after that, I'm like, nah, this is lame. This is lame. It's lame. But Laurie's journey, like Winter Rose said, oh yeah, I have no issues with that. No issues with that. It's a good arc. It's a good arc for her, right? She's facing her fear. It's about redemption. That's why the series should have just fucking ended there. Anyway. Brooke Louie! Hey, Brooke, haven't seen you in a while. Great to see you here. Says, do they teach Michael how to drive at the same time? Oh, you mean in the 2,200 page 3-part comic book series about how they teach Michael to poop? It should be a children's book called Even Michael Poops. Hey, that's a good idea. Trancas International, if you want to get in on this, give me a call. Even Michael Poops. You know the book Everybody Poops? Even Michael Poops. And you can make it a horror series. Even Michael Poops, even Freddy Pees. You know, even Jason has diarrhea. There's the 3-book series. Even Michael Poops, even Freddy Pees, and even Jason has diarrhea. Or maybe that's the name of one book. Maybe that's the name of one book. The name of one book is Even Michael Poops, Even Freddy Pees, and Even Jason has diarrhea. Hey! I'm telling you, we could make a fortune off of this. I might post that to social media. We could make a fortune off of this. Oh, no, I got it. I got the name. Even Michael Pease, even Jason, even Michael Pease, even, let me try that again. Even Michael Poops, even Freddie Pease, Jesus, okay. Even Michael Poops, even Freddie Pease, even Jason has diarrhea, and even Chucky blows chunks. There it is. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. You can have it all in one book. It's a long title, I know, but it'd be a cool kind of title. Or you can have it as 4 different books. Even Michael Poops, even Freddie Pease, even Jason has diarrhea, and even Chucky blows chunks. I think Chucky would be the one to blow chunks. Yeah, I don't think he would. I don't know. He just seems more like a chunk blower to me. It's funny. Oh, it's so great. Let me see. Even Chucky Sharts, Darren says. Even Chucky Sharts. Yeah. Somebody call me right now. Listen, I don't want to write it. I don't want to illustrate it. You can just pay me the royalties for the title of the book and the idea. Of course, you can't copyright an idea, but if you want to use my idea, you can just pay me the, I don't know, whatever, like a few cents off of every sale, or just buy me out. Buy me out. Buy me out right now. Just buy me out. Anybody listening? You want that? You want that? Even Michael Poops, even Freddie Pease, even Jason has diarrhea, and even Chucky sharts or blows chunks. We're not sure yet which one it'll be. Or maybe, and even Chucky sharts and blows chunks. Maybe combine both of them in there. I think that'd be the way to go. Buy me out, folks. Buy me out. Frank, what did I miss here, Frank? Let me see. You got a big miss super chat from Brooke. No, I got Brooke's super chat. I got it. Did I not? Did Brooke send in 2? No, I just hadn't got to Brooks yet. Yeah, no, I had seen it come in. I just hadn't got to it yet. But I did get to it. Yes. Chris Baber says Frank Riker super chats naked. He does actually. Well, not just naked, but in a thong with a little red bow. It's sexy. He sends me photos all the time. Frank Riker says, Dave, I think Charlie Bowles would sue for those book titles. He might. Oh, sorry, Charlie Bowles. I read it as Bowles. Charlie Bowles. You're right. He might. Yeah, Charlie Bowles. And we could even get, it could be like a shared universe. And we could even get Charlie Bowles in there as Charlie Bowles or something to that degree. I think that might be kind of fun too. All right, we'll take this thing to 12:30, so another 15 minutes, ladies and germs. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, do you think the Oscars will be canceled this year? Well, yeah, there's not a lot of movies to, that's a good question. I'm going to say yes, but I think there will be some hybrid of something. They will do something. They're going to do something. But you're right. What do you do? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I know the Voice Arts Awards are continuing, not in person, obviously. They're online. I mean, the Voice Arts Awards aren't the Oscars, obviously. And voiceover obviously has been able to go ahead. Yeah, I don't know. That's a very good question. Very good question. Because there haven't been a lot of movies that have been able to release. Which means your best picture winner may be like Sonic or something. I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know. I should look at, is there any, do we have any updates on that or anything? I'm not really sure. We'd have to take a look. Yeah. Although Darren does make a good point. Oscars won't be canceled. The Academy needs the submission money. That's true. Touche. That is true. It's probably why the VAAs weren't canceled either. It's why a lot of award shows probably will be. We need your money anyway. Or the money of the studios at the very least. That's a good point. DMT Infinity says, Dave, to your point about those horror films, you and everything needs to have at least some level of novelty, or else the overwhelming habits it inhabits will produce more negatives rather than positives. I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying. Yes, and everything needs to have at least some level of novelty. You mean some level of realism, or else the overwhelming habits it inhabits will produce more. It sounds like it's quite the word salad, DMT, although I know I can be a bit of a word salad myself. I'm just trying to understand. I think I understand what you're saying. And yes, you're correct. Like, the bottom line here is that whenever you're making a movie, whenever story is the most important thing. And then you have to put yourself, unless it's a surreal kind of movie to begin with, but I need to believe that these people are really in these situations and scenarios and locations. I can suspend my disbelief a little bit, like we all can. And we all do have to do that in movies. We all have to do that in movies. We all do. You have to suspend your disbelief. But it has to be in a way that you still believe that the other scenario could have happened. Or, okay, I can believe that may be likely. That's important too. So, it comes down, there's so much that, we need to make sure we believe. Dan Curley says, Dave, do you play movie board games? There's a Blockbuster game that is cool. You have to do one word, describe the movie, and then quote movie, and then quote the movie hard game. I haven't played in a long time. I do remember there was a game called Scene, I think, years ago. I probably haven't played a movie board game in like 15 years. I do remember playing it with my friends about 15 years or so ago. There was a couple of movies. Yeah, I have, but I haven't in a long time. Not in a long time. Jess Graham says, you can connect Halloween 3 to the rest of the series as canon. Mrs. Blankenship from H6 is mentioned in H3. In her dad's shop, Ellie mentions his last meeting was scheduled with Minnie Blankenship. Do we know that, okay, fair, yeah. Do we know that Mrs. Blankenship's name in Halloween 6 was Minnie? Do we know that? Or could she just be another Blankenship? I don't know, folks. I don't know. Steve Miro says, seen it. I played that game. That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought there was a game called Seen It. Yeah. Yeah. Halloween 3, I mean, you definitely can connect certain things with Halloween 3, but then it doesn't make much sense to have Halloween. There's a dichotomy that happens in Halloween 3. And so you have things like you're watching the very movie of Mike. And I know people can say, well, maybe that was the made for TV movie based on the events. Yeah, but it's not. No, but it's not. It's the actual movie. You don't look at the television and see somebody playing Jamie Lee. No, you see Jamie Lee Curtis. You see Laurie Strode. You see the exact clip from Halloween. You see the Halloween movie. You don't see like, in Scream 2 where you're watching Stab, right? Where you're not watching, it's not like Halloween 3 is showing a Halloween movie based on the events like they did in Scream 2 with Stab. No, you're watching the movie. You're watching Halloween. It's the exact Halloween. That was supposed to tell you that it's not the same universe. That's why they did that. It's one of the reasons why they were nodding their head to the two movies that came before, or the original. And that's why they did that. So with Blankenship, I mean, yes, I mean, you could take it from that. Sure, you can. But for me, with anything, that's just another example of the incompetence and the garbage that is the Halloween series. As a whole, I don't mean there's not goodness in there. I just mean of the shit that just has gone down with that. But I don't think they ever, I don't think, you have to understand that when they wrote Halloween 6, I don't think they called the old lady Mrs. Blankenship to say that Halloween 3 is canon. Now, unless there's an interview where they're saying that that's why they did that, okay, I stand to be corrected. But if that is why they did that, well, then that to me is just more evidence of incompetence. Because A, it's unnecessary, and B, it makes no fucking sense when you literally have the Halloween movie on the TV, not a fictional version of what we're seeing. You actually have the Halloween. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. So, anyway. Yeah, Jess, I understand what you're saying, but this is what like fans. I get what you're saying. But at the same time, if you want to read it, like this is the stuff that a lot of fans do because they think it's cool and it helps them justify and connect things because they like world building. But the reality is that that's not what was happening there. And the reason why we know that is because there was no inkling that there would ever be a Halloween H2O in 1982 when they were shooting Halloween 3. It was just Jamie Lee Curtis doing a cameo. That's all it was. And I'm not saying that you actually believe that. I'm not saying that. But I've learned a lot about the world of fandom. And there's different tiers and levels and obsessions to fandom. And some people take this stuff very seriously and say, no, that's evidence of it. But it's not. If you want to connect that on your own in your own mind, okay, fine. But that's why context and intent matters. And when they were making Halloween 3, that's not why. It's not like they said, hey, in 15 years, we're going to make another movie and we're going to have you in Northern California. It's just a coincidence is what it is. It's a coincidence at the end of the day. However, if you want to think of that in your own mind and, oh, that's kind of cool, and I'll imagine that in my own mind, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want it, the real answer, the answer is no, it's not. It's not supposed to be Laurie Strode in Northern California as a 911 operator or not a 911 operator, but as an operator, right? So it's doesn't mean that at all. But certainly this is not the first time people have watched movies and drawn connections back and tried to, all that kind of stuff. So it could be fun to do, but sometimes also I never do it because why? It wasn't the intent. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. The conspiracy trifecta says the girl who plays Annie Brackett is in the movie as a different character. That's another good point too. But then people could say, oh, but she faked her death. And she wasn't really killed, or they thought she was dead, but when they took her to the hospital, she awoke and she wasn't really dead. And then she left because she was so angry at her father for not protecting her. And she decided to run off. We can do this until the cows come home. And I think fans largely do this because we live in a world now where cinematic universes exist and people feel the need. I'm not saying that's why Jess was doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that in general, fandom has become, we need everything. And I say we as a collective, not necessarily me or you, but we as a collective are in this state where we need to have everything spelled out for us. We need to know the answers to every fucking thing. On my Patreon only show the other day, we were talking about Star Wars and I was saying how, somebody asked me, how do you feel about the Obi-Wan show? And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if we ever see Obi-Wan ever again or not. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to any Star Wars fans, but this obsession to know every single, but don't you want to know what Obi-Wan was doing between Revenge of the Sith and I don't care. He was on Tatooine and I'm sure he got into some shenanigans and went into Mos Eisley and hooked up with a couple of babes and, had some fun and drank some, his fucking shitty face off and went on a few adventures. And yeah, it's fine. I don't care. I don't need to know that. I don't need to know. I want to preserve some aura of mystery around this Obi-Wan character. Don't you want a Vader standalone? I don't know. No, I don't. Everything we know about Vader, we know. We need to know. I don't want to strip Vader away so much that I don't need to know. He got the prequels. Okay, he was a boy. Coming down. Okay, great. I don't need to see Vader ever again. There's people like me. But then there are people that are like, no, I need to know everything, more Vader, more this. I want to see a fucking episode. I want to see a fucking series that connects to this and do this. I want to see fucking Obi-Wan this and fucking that. No, let's go back in time and watch Loomis taking care of Michael for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, waiting for this night. We need to fucking see that shit. We need to see Loomis getting up in the morning, having a shower, eating breakfast, saying goodbye to his wife. Oh my God, he's got a wife. We never knew that. Holy fuck, that's amazing. Holy shit, he's got a kid at the table. Oh my God, if he's got a kid at the table, that means that kid must still be out there. oh my God, we could do a fucking standalone movie with just the kid. We could do just the kid. We could do just the kid. Holy shit, that would be amazing. And then we could connect him to something else in the future. And so, and like a future movie. Oh my God, that's fucking amazing. What happened to his wife? Oh my God, his wife died of cancer. Holy shit, we can find out that he's got another kid. Holy shit, who cares? Who fucking cares? Why do we need that? Why? Because I need it, Dave. I need everything. I need it. Oh, man. It's amazing to me. I love you guys. I sincerely do. I do. It's just, it's a learning experience for me how people are like, wow, like everybody, no, I want to go back and then we can do this, and then we can do that, and then we can find out how is it, and then I got an idea, why do we find out, and then we go back and we do like a Loomis origin story, and we find out, we watch the birth of Loomis, and then he's there, and he's like, holy shit, I just want this kind of fucking stuff, and I just want kind of stuff, oh my God, it's amazing, holy shit, I just want all that kind of stuff, and Tom Morgan says, some people want to know, and I get it, I understand it, I understand the principle of it, but I just think that there's a romance that's destroyed by knowing everything, and it just ruins everything. When you strip away every little fine thing right down to its bone, you leave nothing left. And you also run the risk of being pissed off because you are putting this in the hands of people, of others that you're supposed to trust. I would rather not have somebody strip it all away from me and do a 9-season series of Loomis at Smith's Grove. I don't need to. Why do I need to know that? I know he was a doctor there, and okay. Yeah, but some people, we want to know, Dave. We want to know. Well, then don't bitch and complain when you find out it's something you didn't like. Well, that sucks. That series sucked. It shouldn't have been like that. Says who? Says who? It's there is no, it says who? It's Loomis at Smith's Grove. Here's what it is. Well, that's not the way I would have done it. Why even subject yourself to that possibility? Let's just, okay, he was a doctor there. He took care of kids. He was a psychiatrist. He met Michael, which became his most intense patient yet. And he battled between science and, there was a battle within himself between science and the supernatural. Wow, okay, that's fucking amazing. I just don't think we need to see it. I don't think, but I love the passion from all of you that are like that. I love your passion. I sincerely do. I love that you guys like, fuck yeah, I need to happen this. I really love that. I love the passion. I don't know if it's my age or if it's just, I don't know. I just think for me, there's a level of mystery and mystique that needs to remain there. Because knowing everything is, I don't know. For me, it's just hollow to know everything. But that's me. That's me. It's 12:30. Okay, we'll go for just a couple more minutes here because some super chats did come in. Cody Snyder sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Cody. New patron, by the way. Cody Snyder, a new patron of mine. I know you and Bruce are busy right now, but will we get one last Mcrae live with you both before production begins? Like a sort of countdown. I don't know, Cody. That's a great question. Obviously, production begins in 10 days from now. I will have to see. I'll have to check with Bruce. Next week's going to be very, very busy for both Bruce and I. So I'll have to see. I'm not sure. But if we can, we'll try and make it work. Brooke Louie sends in a super chat again and says, doesn't watching Rob Zombie's Halloween breakfast scene just give you the warm and fuzzies? Oh, it does, Brooke. It does. I prefer him coming from a normal, happy family. Makes it that much more disturbing, in my opinion. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot here on the channel, and I agree with you. I think the less we know about his backstory, the better, and the more that it seems ironic, like there's a dichotomy, like somebody, because there's the nature versus nurture thing, right? And somebody you would assume that was born into a nice home with nice parents that, were taught by all accounts, it was a nice upbringing. There was no abuse, no sexual abuse, no emotional abuse, no physical abuse. He had a normal childhood. And he ends up that way. Yeah, there is, and that is why at the end of that opening scene, we see the two parents against the backdrop of this, little wartime home, mid-America. it's this horrific event that's happening against the backdrop of something it's not supposed to be like that. So yes, I agree with everything you've said. Jim Dorsey says, happy Friday the 13th, Dave. Happy Friday the 13th to you too, Jim. You need to do a Crispin Glover dance video for the next Friday the 13th. Oh, I should. That's right. I've done 2 Friday the 13th videos. I should do that one. That'll be next on the list. I don't know when the next Friday the 13th is. Is there one next year? There usually is one a year, I think. Chris Baber, thanks buddy, says, met Kane Hodder last year and this guy was amazing and huge. Yeah, he's a great guy. I've seen him. I've never had the opportunity to meet him, but he was a very nice guy. When I saw, he was at Fan Expo in Toronto a few years back, and I saw him interacting with certain fans, and he was great. He was absolutely great, 100%. Really, really, really great. Okay, let me see here. I think that's a good spot to call it a day, folks. Let's do that. Hey, that's gonna do it for episode 100 and what are we at? 122, 123 of Mcrae Live. I want to thank my moderators, of course, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, and Darren Sands for doing what you guys do, continuing to do what you guys do. I really appreciate it so much. I really, really do. Thank you to all the super chats that came in today, and of course, the non-super chats as well. This was a fun show. Have a safe Friday the 13th out there. It is 2020, so, keep that in mind. If you're superstitious, you may want to take it easy. It's a Friday the 13th in 2020. So I'm just saying maybe you should, check both ways before you cross the street, come full stop at a stop sign. Just kind of maybe play it a little safe today. I don't know. Who knows? If you're not suspicious, whatever. It doesn't bother me. But have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. A great weekend. And I will be back Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Tony, Michael, and I. The plan right now is to watch The Faculty. That's right. We were going to watch that last, I guess, in October or September, and we couldn't. But that's the plan. Make sure you tune in for that. That will do it for me, folks. Have a great rest of you. Oh, yeah. Hey, Darren, thank you for saying that. Darren Sands, of course, my 2 great moderators. I got 3 great moderators, but 2 of my 3 great moderators, Darren Sands and Frank Riker, of course, have a podcast called The Slaughtered Lamb where they talk about horror. You got to check it out. It's great shit. It's where all, you can find it where podcasts are downloaded. There is a link right there from Darren. They did the original Friday the 13th. They're not big fans of the original Friday the 13th, so they discuss that back and forth on the show. So, make sure you check that out if you can. I'm going to check it out because I do like the original Friday the 13th, so I want to hear what you guys have to say. And I think I kind of know what you're going to say. And some of the things that you say, I actually do agree with you on. But nonetheless, I look forward to listening to that as well. So check that out if you have some time. Folks, that's going to do it for me. Have a great rest of your weekend. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.